We're going to get our arts and crafts on and make some terrariums today with Steve from Steve's Leaves. So welcome to this week's episode of Plant One On Me, Field Trip Edition. So let's talk a little bit about terrariums, because it's kind of a big thing. It's been a big thing probably since the 1800s, but I see them going for top dollar in some of the stores when it's actually a really simple thing that you could do for your home. And I see that you have some really interesting varieties here that maybe you could take us through, and then maybe you could just also take us through some of the basics of terrarium making.
Sure, and the way I got addicted to plants was with terrariums when I was 13 years old. That my mother received some as gifts, and so I started making my own and kind of got interested, and then started focusing more on the plants themselves. The terrariums that we make and sell to the retailers, most of them are not enclosed, so I consider a true terrarium to be one in an enclosed environment, kind of sealed up. The problem with that in a retail setting is they fog up, and they don't want that look. They want the customers to be able to see inside. You can vent them a little bit to let that occur, but it's kind of like a glorified dish garden in that it with sides on it, because the top is open. So if you have a plant that needs really high humidity, then you want a closed container for it. A lot of it depends on what type of plants you have or what kind of look you want, or if it is a special container you want to use, you work around that.
So you almost would want a succulent in this, something like this. You could put a succulent in here versus there.
Correct. But really, pretty much anything could go in here. So when I was growing up, I would read the books. You know, I would get special charcoal and gravel and all that kind of stuff. They always say to put a layer of gravel. Well, somewhat they'll hold some excess water. It really doesn't hold a whole lot, and so I found that it's better to just omit that, especially on a small container. By the time you put a layer of gravel and the charcoal and whatever else, then there's not much room for the soil for the plant to grow in, and I don't want the soil line up here. And just take the soil, and again, I'm going against conventional wisdom here, so pick a plant.
Maybe an acacia?
And everyone likes anything with a flower on it. And usually you tap it like this to take it out. In this case, I know it'll come out easily. It's well rooted in. And so I'll just take that and screw it in there, work it in. It's almost bigger than I need it to be.
Yeah. And
then you can top dress it. Now, we were making terrariums where we'd cover all the soil with gravel, but I found a problem with that, and that is people were going, well, how do I know when it needs water? So I actually like to have some soil, because peat moss will change color from light to dark. It'll be dark when it's wet, and when it turns light, you know when to water, because the watering is such a critical thing. And then we can top dress just so it looks a little fancier. Take some gravel and put it around here. You can use aquarium gravel, or just, again, when you go places, suddenly everything's going to be a new, what can I use as a top dressing that maybe wasn't intended for that. So, and just put as much as you want and for the look you want, and how you want it to look from the side. And of course, if you have a deeper container, you can get fancier with different colors and types of gravel. I'm going to put a little more. And then when you water it, you can wash the foliage off with a spray bottle and watch the glass.
So you could spray the leaves and it won't cause any kind of weird markings or anything on these?
We hand water with a hose all our acacias here, and very seldom have problems like that. Again, that goes, I'm telling you all these things that everyone says not to do, but yes, that's something they say not to do.
Well,
but we've never had a problem with that. Now, African violets,
years of experience, so
African violets are another matter.
African violets,
we have more problems with that, so we don't even grow them. And you can take some. You do need to put some water in there. There's not enough. I used to use moist soil, but it was harder to work with, harder to get level and everything. So I used dry soil. Use this to also wash off the glass. You're not just watering, you're kind of cleaning it up inside a little bit. And see if you can see how it's already very dark
Yep.
there. You just
I
want
see
to be careful not to overdo it. So
Yeah.
that's what I really like about doing this is you can see the soil still, and some people enjoy seeing the roots grow
Yeah,
too.
I actually like that look.
But-
It's like the striations
but-
you could see as well.
Now I have instructions that I send the retailers to give to their customers that tells them look for the color so they don't overwater it. And it tells them what to do if they do put too much in, to kind of tilt it and soak up the extra with a sponge. If you want to put some decoration, you can just take a stone or a seashell or whatever else you have lying around and put that in it. But there's just, I mean, you put a little soil, you kind of screw the plant down into the soil. It can be done very, very quickly. And of course, you can make it more complicated if you want to. You know, like on this jar here. So I just said you don't need the gravel on the bottom, but the thing is, we have all this extra space. You know, we want to fill it up to about here. So it'll serve a little bit of function for drainage, but mostly for decoration. And you can use very different gravel or coarser gravel or finer, whatever you want. And, you know, to whatever looks good to you. You know, put some gravel in and you put some soil into the level you want. And it just depends on how full you want it, what kind of look you want. And then you choose your plants. So some of these don't necessarily have to have the high humidity in a enclosed terrarium, but a lot of these will still grow. Now some of the plants, like the coleus, we'll use those for extra color, but those and some of the other plants also are more of a, maybe it'll last about 3 months of color, and then you might need to pluck it out and put something else in just to give you color. Because if you like just all green plants, then that's fine. But a lot of the really good terrarium plants are kind of green and boring. So we grow really colorful ones because that's what our retailers want us to do. And some of them like this will last for a while.
Is it a bloodroot?
Blood leaf, some people
leaf,
call it, yeah. And I'm not really choosing for color that much. Although I probably would not mix colors like these.
Yeah, no, this is quite actually nice because this is like a silvery green with this like deeper crimson red. It's quite nice.
Probably normally put 3 in one like this. I'll just put 2 in, just you do want to give it a little bit of room for growth. So and then the same thing here, you pick whatever you want to top dress with. And actually I'm going to wash a little bit of that soil.
And no, you're not using any charcoal in this situation. Right. Is that it could be horticultural charcoal, and you said you used to use all that stuff, but you found that this just survives just fine.
Yes, I never found that it was beneficial, even though every book I had told me that's what I was supposed to be doing, and that's what I used to do. And again, you go with what works, and so if it works for you, if you find that it has a benefit, then use it. I haven't found one, and I've had a single terrarium for years, and it was fine. It was more a matter of pinching the plants back, not over fertilizing, because this is a case where you don't want to force a lot of growth on the plants. So it looks kind of like a mess right now, but what you can do is shake it, kind of brush this off. You see the soil soaking, the water soaking into the soil.
Oh, that's really impressive. You can see it just all going down there, yep.
I would drip it down the sides to clean the glass at the same time. And then you can use your fingers or whatever tools you have you want to use, or a spray bottle to kind of, some people like to use it to clean them off. Some people like to use a spray bottle to water because they find that they can't control themselves and they're going to overwater. And so this way they're not overwatering. But just be sure to leave room for your decorations, and put the lid on it and everything.
And then, so if you find that it builds up a little bit on the side, you said just
you can let it vent a little bit.
I was going to say that's when you know it's actually working. I would imagine, because it is building up humidity in there. And now, would you put this? You wouldn't put this necessarily directly up against a bright sunny spot. Where would you have it back, or what kind of direction would your window be facing that would be kind of perfect for this, or can you keep it a little bit more in your interior?
So it does depend on the plants that you're using and what level of light they can take. But yes, if you put this in very bright light, It's like being in the car with all the windows rolled up. So you're going to cook your plants. You don't want to do that. But they do like pretty bright light. Probably don't want a dark corner, but again, it depends on your plant selection. And the bright light on them will also cause them to fog up more. So if they're a little away, then they'll not be fogged up, and you can actually see what you have in there better.
Let's just go over a couple of these varieties here, because I know we talked about the blood leaf and the Pilea glauca and the epicias. Is this a polka dot plant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's called polka dot or splash. That's a red splash. Also, the name is Hypoestes. And so we grow these in 4 colors, and we do as a mix of the different colors. And it's a really nice plant to add color to whatever you're working with. You know, just when I tell someone that don't expect it to live for years, and I'll have someone say, well, theirs lived for years. And they can do kind of, if you give it enough light, they do a little kind of a cool thing, is that they'll start blooming, they'll spiking. I've actually had some people like them better when they're spiking and they have little flowers on them. They think they look kind of like a heather. To me, they're kind of ruined at that point, but some people like them. It's in the eye of the beholder. But if you take care of it, and most people will toss it at that point, you take care of it, the old foliage will start fading, and you'll get really healthy new foliage at the bottom that's fuzzy. The new growth usually that comes out will be kind of fuzzy and more colorful and everything. And I very seldom, but occasionally run into someone who took good care of it and went through a number of those cycles with it.
And you just clip it back then?
Then once the new growth is coming up and looking healthy, you get rid of the old growth and let the new growth come up.
And these are, I actually love these. These are like Senecio macroglossus, right?
Correct.
And it looks like an ivy, just because it has that similar shape. This one's a variegated variety. A little bit more on the succulent side, though, as well, along with this one. So would you have these? It could be in an open or
I would do an open one.
container.
It probably would be okay if you didn't overwater it. It would probably go nuts and really like the humidity, but it's not necessary to have it. And so that would be one, because it has a thick succulent leaf with a waxy leaf. This particular variety is a sport or mutation off a different variegated one. So this is kind of a reverse variegated one that I noticed growing in here, and so we kind of isolated it and started growing it. So we offer that as a variety as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for all these terrarium tips. This is going to be very helpful, and I think that if you are able to get these things for your home, and like you said, you could grab any kind of glass container and make this fairly affordable, because I see some of them going upwards of $80, $100, $150. I think you could probably keep this in a very affordable rate, you know, if you want to do this in your home. So thank you so much for all those tips.
Thanks for coming out.
Steve's Leaves has been growing unique varieties of houseplants for over 41 years. You can check out all of his fancy foliage at stevesleaves.com.
Hopefully you enjoyed all those unconventional approaches to terrarium making with Steve from Steve's Leaves. And if you have a different way that you make terrariums, why don't you make some comments below and share it with others? And also, if you like these episodes and want to tune in every week, don't forget to subscribe. And you can also follow along on my Instagram at Homestead Brooklyn and on my website at homesteadbrooklyn.com. Bye!